Is there a way I can? Yep, got it.
Good now.
Looks like we have 15 folks that have joined us, and it's holding at 15. So whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Jay Claypool. I'm going to chair tonight's last meeting of 2020 for the BAR Small. With me is the full board, which is Glenn Gardner, Julia Martin, Bill Huey, and Fillmore Wilson. With us is Kim Lavin, as well as Alex Howell for the staff. The order of the meeting is going to be as follows. Staff will give a very brief introduction of the project, after which time the applicant and anyone on behalf of the applicants can speak for 10 minutes. Please state your name clearly for the record. After the applicant's presentation, we'll then get into public comment, which again is about a 10-minute period. Everyone speaking, please state your name clearly for the record. We'll then hear from staff as to its comments on the project and its recommendation. Once we've heard that, the applicant can clarify or address anything the applicant's heard, both in public comment as well as in staff comment. And again, that's to clarify or correct. It's not to sort of reopen the application. The floor then closes. The board will then deliberate, vote, and make its ruling. The board is able to ask questions of anyone, including the applicant, at any time, and we generally begin asking those questions right after the applicant's presentation. There's been a number of items that were on the originally published agenda which have been removed, either deferred or withdrawn. Those items are number 6, 56 Cannon, number 8, 1 Michelle Place, number 10, 69 Cumming, and number 9, 69 Cumming, and number 10, 8 Halsey. Again, those agenda items and those properties we're not going to discuss tonight. Please limit your comments to architecture only, and turn off your phone. And always remember to turn off my desk phone if you're like me. So with that, let's go on to our first agenda item. No, I'm sorry, we have virtual meeting protocol. Kim, can you go through that?
Thank you, Jay. Meeting protocol. Staff will control the PowerPoint presentation that includes everything submitted by the applicant by the deadline in accordance with submittal requirements. Applicants simply need to ask staff to advance to the next slide during your presentation. Applicants, staff, and board members are required to give their name whenever speaking. Video and microphone has been disabled for all attendees. Attendees, not board members or staff, will only be given the capabilities to speak when they're called on during public comment period. The chat and the Q&A functions have been disabled for everyone. For public comment, the applicants and all team members and the public have been required to register, indicate the project they wish to comment on, and submit any documents in advance of the meeting. Just as in in-person meetings, all applications heard today are part of a public meeting format. If you've registered and will speak during the public portion of the meeting, you'll need to state your name and address for the record. Those members of the public that have registered will be called on in order by project. Members of the public that speak are encouraged to remain in the meeting for the completion of the item that they've commented on. Staff will call on the registered members of the public to speak for each project. Unregistered members of the public who raise their hand will not be called. For the board members will be polled by the chair for comments and their vote on a motion. Each member when voting should respond yay in favor or nay not in favor. The chairman shall reread the motion verbatim, and the board member making the motion should correct the chairman if he has not reread the motion accurately. If a board member needs to recuse, he will be temporarily removed from the meeting and placed back into the meeting at the start of the next agenda item. If the board needs to go into executive session, they will call into a separate conference line, and all video and audio on the Zoom will be temporarily turned off until they're ready to return. Staff will issue the meeting results, including staff comments and board motion, to the applicant following the meeting. Results will also be posted on the city website at www.charleston-sc.gov/BAR. For additional information, you can contact BAR at charleston-sc.gov or visit our website if you're having technical difficulties during the meeting. So these proceedings are being recorded. Back to you, Jay.
Agenda item number 130, Anson.
30 Anson is requesting conceptual approval for the installation of storm windows. It's a category 2 in the Ansonboro neighborhood, circa 1839 and in the old and historic district. This is an aerial image just to give you a little bit of context. It's just north of Pinckney and south of Hazel Street. Here are some images from the street, courtesy of Google. And this is looking north and south. Some Sanborn maps from 1888 on the left and 1902 to 1942 on the right. You can see the little blue arrow, sorry if you can't see that, is the property in question. And if the applicant wants to take it from here. Okay, Simon, it looks like you're using an older version of Zoom, so I'm going to have to bring you in a different way. Hold on, just bear with me. Simon, can you hear us?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, great.
Okay. So thank you, and sorry for the technical glitch. As you stated, the house is historic, built in 1838. And so what we're requesting is for a storm unit on the north facing wall, which is not visible from the street when you're proceeding north on Anson Street. The reason being is that we had the exterior walls repointed lately. I think that you have that application. And the person who pointed the wall said, hey, your windows are going to need to be replaced soon or repaired. So soon is a relative term. And so in order to protect the windows until we're ready for more authentic historic restoration of the windows, I would like to place the storm units to protect the windows. These are the units from ABC awning. They extend out from the window frame itself about an inch. They are completely below the facing brick wall and are not really visible from the outside street unless you proceed down Motley Alley, which is adjacent to the north wall of the building. So the reason is that we'd like to protect the windows until a later time when something else can be done. And it's only on that wall that we're requesting, not any other windows. There are 9 on that wall.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Tim, are there any pictures?
Yeah, I did submit pictures of the,
Let's just go through.
that would be looking down the alley. So if you stood in front of the property to the north of it and you look down the alley, that's what you would see. And the windows would be on that wall. So now you start to see a little bit of them.
There are other residents that have them in front.
Okay. Does any board member have any questions right now while we're looking at the pictures? All right, Kim, is there any public comment?
Yes. Hold on one moment. Okay, April Wood has signed up to speak.
April
Oh.
Wood. Historic Charleston Foundation. Historic Charleston Foundation has reviewed the application for the installation of storm windows at 30 Anson Street. 30 Anson Street is a Category 2 building, and the city has a VAR policy statement prohibiting storm windows on Category 1 and 2 buildings. VAR policy statements serve as important guiding policies adopted after careful consideration of the character defining elements in Charleston's historic architecture. HCF was in support of the establishment of the policy statement when it was adopted, and we firmly believe that all adopted VAR policy statements should be upheld. Should the VAR approve of the request for storm windows at this Category 2 building, which are characterized as being of irreplaceable importance to be preserved in situ at all costs, we believe the effectiveness of the policy statement will be undermined. When I reviewed the application, I was thinking the application was for storm windows over all of the windows for permanently. After hearing the presentation, if it's a temporary installation of storm windows for a set period of time, we would be more amenable, but we do not want to compromise the VAR's established policy statements regarding storm windows. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Yes. Anna Catherine Carroll has also registered. Anna Catherine, I've unmuted you and you can speak
Thanks.
whenever you're
Yep, Anna Catherine Carroll with the Preservation Society of Charleston. And we too, like Historic Charleston Foundation, were under the impression from the application materials that were submitted that this was a request for storm windows across the openings on this particular property. But in general, we too are not supportive of the proposal per the BAR policy statement that does prohibit the installation of storm windows on Category 1 and 2 structures, and would instead encourage pursuit of interior alternatives, which we have found to be very successful. And we appreciate your consideration.
Right. If there's no other public comment, staff comments?
We just have a couple staff comments, but in general, we echo Preservation Society and Historic Charleston Foundation. VAR policy statements prohibit storm windows on buildings rated Category 1 or 2 on the architectural inventory. An alternative is an energy efficient weather stripping to reduce air infiltration. Sash locks at the meeting rail can ensure that they're tightly closed and as efficient as possible as well. And then interior storm windows are another alternative. However, they should be carefully considered as condensation between the two panes can be detrimental to the historic fabric. We're recommending denial for a permanent storm window. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Scalia, do you want to say anything to clarify or respond to public or staff comments?
I'm going to have to put him back in. Hold on one moment.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
So yeah, I totally agree with what was presented, and I totally understand. So the issue isn't all the openings. I don't want to put storm windows in all the openings. I just want to protect those on the north wall, which are unprotected. All the other openings have either shutters or the piazza. I'm not able to replace those windows at this time, and putting something on the inside doesn't protect the frame on the windows on the outside. So we're not trying to keep air out or cold air out or any of those things. What we're trying to do is protect the existing windows exterior until which time either shutters can be placed or the windows can be replaced in toto. So it's not a question of putting something on the inside. That doesn't solve the problem on the outside. Those windows do not have shutters currently, nor are they protected by a piazza. So that's why I requested only 9 windows on that exterior north wall.
We're trying to extend the life of these windows.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're in board discussion now.
I have a question for the applicant. I know this is late, but do they have a time frame for when they intend to address the larger issue of repairing the windows?
But can you hear me?
Yes.
So I moved into this house in 2013, and to be honest with you, I don't have the funds to do everything that needs to be done at one time. So we did the exterior brick because it had all this patchwork mortar and it was really in disarray. So we had it uniformly restored. So now asking when I'm going to get to the windows, I mean, it's just a determination of funds. The storm windows should help at least for 5 to 10 years to not push the issue. So I can't give you an exact answer because it depends on funding, and that's difficult to say.
I'm Ms. Scalia. If I may add, we've had people look at the windows, more than one person that have, worked in the neighborhood. And basically, we have been told by more than one person that the windows really need to be replaced. So what we're trying to do is just extend the life of these windows with a storm window, which is really a temporary solution. It's really not an alteration to the building at all. So
So getting back to the
Thank you.
windows, I have 32 windows.
Julia, did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Scalia. Thank you, Ms. Scalia. Okay, are we back we're in discussion.
Okay.
Sorry, Julia, you were speaking or somebody started to kick us off here.
Well, I really just had that question, and I think I would have to fall in line with staff and the preservation groups, and kind of cling to our policy statement. I mean, when you start to talk about a time period that could be 10 years and that we can't really control, that feels pretty much permanent. And I do understand the applicant's concerns, but I just don't think we can accommodate those given the policy that is in place. I was also curious, I was going to ask staff, Kim, do you recollect how this process worked when, for example, Circular Congregational Church applied for and I think received approval for panels to protect their stained glass? Is that just a completely different issue because it's stained glass and civic and that sort of thing?
I think that's exactly right, Julia. It's completely different ball game with stained glass, much bigger
Gotcha.
panels and harder to protect.
And similarly, if it were a category 3, it would be a different situation. There's a list of requirements that you can follow and then install storm windows, but with category 1 and 2, it's just not an option, correct?
That's right.
Anybody have any other thoughts they want to add to the discussion?
One more here. No, I agree with Julia. I think I would be more amenable to this if it were a relatively short time period, say 12 to 18 months with a definite end date, but with an absolutely open-ended time period, I am in line with staff. I don't think I can support it.
And I will, Glenn Gardner, I agree with everything that's been said. And I am certainly one of the first people to understand dealing with aging and failing windows and their need for repair. But I hate to see someone throw good money after bad, or is it bad after good, whatever the right way to say that is. But I feel like that funding should be, from the storm windows, should be put to repair or replace the most critical sashes to try to help them keep happily living in the house.
All right, and I was just going to point out that it is really visible. That north elevation really is visible to the public right of way, people on the sidewalk. So that's not a consideration we can really factor in. So I'll go ahead and make a motion for denial.
Right. Julie's made a motion for denial. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, if there's no further discussion, I'll put it to a vote. Julia,
Yay in favor?
Fillmore,
Yay in favor.
Glenn,
Yay in favor?
Bill,
Yay in favor.
chair votes yay in favor. The motion passes unanimously. Next agenda item is 90 East Bay.
Thank you. 90 East Bay is requesting final approval for the installation of a new Sapele door based on historic documentation. It's a category 2 in the Charlestown neighborhood, circa 1773 to 1793, and in the old and historic district. Here's an aerial image for your context. And just some other context photos. This is looking north and looking south. And this is an old image from 1951. Can't really see the door very well, but we thought it was cool, so we put it in.
Kim, could you, I don't think there's a photograph in the presentation. Can you just tell us which door we're talking about? That one? Okay, on the north end. Okay, thanks.
From here, I will allow the applicant to talk.
Kim, while the applicants are being added in, could we go back to that photo, or maybe I can hold that for question time? I just didn't get a good look at it. Thank you.
Alex, can you help me out?
I don't see the applicant in our attendee list.
All right, I can.
Neither Eric Nofzinger nor William Thompson.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, y'all want to hold this one and see
Or-
if anybody shows up?
What we can do is we can allow attendees to, I can allow the function of raising hands. I'll make that, I've made that available to attendees. And if that applicant for 90 East Bay is in attendance, they can raise their hands by, I think, clicking in the lower, it's either in the lower left or lower middle of your Zoom screen. And then we will allow you to make the presentation.
Going once. Going twice. Well, Jay, can we put this to the back of the?
Yeah, let's
that
just
case,
hold
they
it. Let's hold it for a few agenda items. See if anybody shows up in the meantime. So, okay, so let's move on to agenda item number 3, which is 31 Amherst.
31 Amherst Street also has the same issue. I don't see the applicant in the attendees list.
Wow.
So, Alex, can you, oh, got John here. Hey, John,
Hey, thanks for having me.
are you the applicant for 31 Amherst?
I'm representing the homeowner. I'm
Okay.
with the installation company.
Okay, I'll introduce the project and then you can give your spiel.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ma'am.
31 Amherst Street is requesting conceptual approval for the installation of solar panels on the roof. The building isn't rated. It's in the east side, circa 1888, and in the old city district. And here's an aerial image for your context, close to the corner of Amherst and America. Here's the building in question. And this is an existing site photo looking west and east. Sanborn maps from 1888 and 1902 to 42 show the same footprint. All right, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. The applicant, the homeowner, just wants to install a small solar array located on the northeast roof. We have ensured that we're using non-penetrative attachments for this installation. So if the solar was to be removed, the remaining roof would be undamaged. As well, we ensured that you can proceed. I think we might have the design somewhere in that page. We also ensured that we push the array as far to the rear of the house as possible, and it is on the side that has less space, closer to the neighbor. That way, it's has as low visibility from the street as possible. So we just want to make sure that that's kind of brought up to the attention. We're taking the visibility from the street into account, as well as how we're attaching to the roof structure.
Any questions from anyone right now?
I have a quick question. Have you been on the roof and observed the actual
Yes,
roof
ma'am.
material?
Yes, ma'am. We have done a site survey already of the site. It does look like a metal seam roof, which we've worked with previously. I believe the clamp attachment should be in the data sheets somewhere, but we work closely to make sure that any existing whatever is the best and least intrusive way of attaching to the roof, that'll be the way that we approach the situation. It's usually just a clamp that tightens down onto the actual standing seam itself. There is no penetration into the metal. So, but we have been on site. We've taken some roof measurements as well as pictures. We have been there, to answer your question, ma'am.
Okay.
Fillmore Wilson here. I have a couple of questions. I was going through the submittal. I noticed that the brackets in the submittal indicated that they were, I believe that they were through fastened to the roof. But my understanding from what you said is that you're going to use the standing seam clamps to attach the panels.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look back at the site survey pictures that we have. It does look like a standing seam roof, so that would be our attachment method. And I can provide, if it's not in the docket that we provided, I was trying to watch as you're scrolling through, I can definitely provide the board with the cut sheet for the attachment style that we'll be using.
Okay, other quick question. What's the wind load rating of that clamp system?
All of our solar equipment and mounting is rated for 145 miles per hour. And it should state that in the engineering letter, which was, I believe, the first document that we saw in the presentation. It should state the wind category in there that it's rated for.
I actually think it said 150, which is very good. My question is, if it's attached to the seams, what's the wind load rating of the roof system? Because that's what matters. That's an old standing seam roof that had multiple levels of coating on it. The seams are ill-defined as a result of the buildup of the coating. And I think it would be difficult to attach to those seams, first of all, without removing or damaging some of the coating, which is maybe going to create a problem. So I'm a little concerned with the perhaps the condition of that roof, because it is an old turn roof with a lot of coating on it. And I went and took another look at it this morning, and I'm not sure that clamp system. I almost assure you that clamp system will give you 150 mile an hour uplift rating on that roof, and certainly the roof attachment itself would not give you a 150 mile an hour uplift rating. So
I can definitely sorry.
Without the attachment method.
Where are we? I think we are just questioning right now. So,
Okay.
Yeah, hang on.
Mr. Chairman, I just had one more.
Yeah,
question.
Questions, please.
Could you go back to that very first letter, that engineer letter that the applicant just referenced?
There it is.
Okay. It does mention lag screws in here, so that's why I'm a little bit confused. I believe Fillmore, that's what you saw. I want to make sure with the applicant that this is not basically narrating the system that he's proposing, because that snap and rack with lag screws was detailed on that last sheet with a lag screw.
Yeah, I will I'm wondering why he mentions both, because as it does mention above that, the S5 clamp. S5 is the one who produces the metal roof style attachments. And I can have, just as the other gentleman was mentioning, I can have our engineer take a second look at the roof just to ensure and to correct some clarifications on this and provide you guys with the board with a separate engineering document just to confirm that everybody's on the same page and that the way that we're attaching is non-intrusive and non-penetrative.
I just, for myself, I'd like to see that personally, because seeing this and then seeing the detail further on in the presentation, they both indicate the same type of system in the narrative and in the detail with lag screws. I didn't see one for the clamp on, so I would like to see maybe.
If we could go back to the rail picture, the picture with the rails on it. So the S5 clamp just uses one more, please. This is what you're talking about with the lag pole coming through into the flashing. The S5 clamp would use a similar rail attachment piece, but instead of having the piece of flashing, it attaches to the standing seam. And I can, like as mentioned, I can follow up with the board and follow up with our engineer to confirm the attachment types as well as the wind speed category rating on that.
And I'm with Bill on this. I would like to see that attachment system, and I would like to see how the engineer assesses the uplift capacity of the existing roof to which it is attached. Because those uplift ratings are assuming they're fundamentally set up for a more commercial style standing seam roof that is new. They are not set up for an 80 or 100-year-old turn metal roof. And so I think the engineering here is a little flawed, because it all comes down to what those clamps are attached to. And certainly on a new commercial standing seam roof, you might get your appropriate uplift ratings, but I don't think you're going to get it on that old turn roof.
And I will have him review that.
Thank you. That would be great.
Okay. So is there any other sort of questions right now? We got a little out of order, but it was all good. Is there any public comment, Kim?
This is Anna Catherine Carroll with the Preservation Society of Charleston. The Preservation Society is not opposed to seeking energy efficient solutions, but alterations need to be approached as sensitively as possible. Our primary concern with this request is the impact of the proposed attachment system on the historic standing seam roof, as well as the visibility of the panels looking west on Amherst Street. Based on the materials submitted, it's also difficult to understand the proposed placement of the panels in relation to the street. From a dimension standpoint and a distance standpoint. So we feel more information is needed to determine the potential visual impact and impact on historic material of this proposal, and ask that the board not approve this request. Thank you.
And now we have April Wood.
April Wood, Historic Charleston Foundation. Historic Charleston Foundation has reviewed the application for conceptual approval for the installation of solar panels on the roof. While we do not object conceptually to solar panels, we do not feel that this applicant has presented sufficient information to give us comfort that the historic roofing material will not be damaged or compromised with this installation. There's also not sufficient information on the location and visibility of the proposed solar panels. We recommend deferral of this application so the additional information can be submitted. Thank you.
Kim, if there's no other public comment, how about staff comments?
Yes. We have several comments. The solar panels are located toward the rear of the building, which is a positive. There are several conduit and infrastructure coming into the front and east corner of the building, which should be simplified, combined, or relocated toward the rear for a cleaner appearance of the street. That's possible. The installation process could have repercussions to the roof, which appears to have had many repairs and patches over the years. We encourage a conditions assessment for the roof to determine if this roof could support the panels or if the roof would need to be replaced in order to do so. Further information detailing how high these panels would be raised off the roof and where each mounting bar would be placed in relation to the seam is also necessary. For these reasons, we are recommending deferral with staff comments and final review by staff.
Okay, thank you, Kim. John, we got a little ahead of ourselves earlier into some board discussion, but right now you can sort of clarify or respond to some of the staff comments or the public comments that have been made.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I do apologize about that. I haven't sat in on too many of these, so I'm not too familiar, but I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to what we have to say about the project. I just want to say I do think that we're gonna probably end up coming back for a secondary review. We will probably make another site visit to confirm the integrity of the roof, as well as follow up with our engineer regarding not only the roof's integrity, but the roof's integrity to withstand the load of the solar, as well as handling the wind upload of the solar array, being that we're in a higher wind category. I don't think I have too much other to add. I think I got a lot of good information that would be able to help the board make a clear decision in another review. I'll be able to provide a lot more documentation that will help clear up a lot of these points. So I just appreciate the board's time today. And you know, if we can get it moving forward, great. If not, I will get the additional documentation needed for the next review.
Great, thank you. All right, so now we're back into board discussion. So maybe we'll just sort of adopt everything that was said earlier. Does anybody want to pick it up, or is there anything more to discuss?
This is kind of like Groundhog Day for me. We keep getting these applications, and I just know from experience that the S5 clip does not work on a standing seam metal roof that's traditional like this. It has to have a beefier, like Fillmore said, a more commercial seam that it can really grab onto, and that's not present at this property. I do remember that a few years ago, extensive repairs were done to the roof, and they even patched in some entire panels that they formed out of light gauge aluminum on site. And I'm not sure the extent of that, but I mean, if the panels were located where that was replaced with new material, I would have no problem with attachments that went through the roof. But I don't think the replacement was that extensive. I think it was just patched here and there. So I think we're in the same situation we usually are with these requests. Unfortunately, because I want to see them happen.
Absolutely.
I agree with Julie. I certainly have no objection to solar panels in concept, but I think that the most of the applications, not all the applications we've seen recently, have lacked appropriate planning, engineering, and understanding of the roof closure systems and even the underlying structures of historic buildings. And so, so I'm in agreement with staff on this for deferral. The question is, do we want to see it come back to the board? I think we should see it come back.
Yeah, I guess my only comment on that, Fillmore, is that just like it has already been stated, I feel the same way on this that I've felt on others in the past. As a board member, I really want to be provided with the information that we need in order to approve solar sensitively for a roof. So whether this comes back to the board or whether it's more of a policy, I don't know the answer to that, but I think that we all need to know the best way of doing this, because I think it would be advantageous to be able to approve it in the future.
I think in light of the fact it's being deferred and what we're going to see is basically new information, I think it should come back to the board. That's just my 2 cents.
I'm comfortable with that.
All right, Bill, is that a motion?
I'll make a motion for deferral.
Second.
All right, Bill's made a motion just straight up for deferral. Do you want to include sort of the request for information that staff has requested in its comments, or just leave it at deferral?
I'll include staff's comments. Yeah, motion for deferral with staff's comments.
Okay, Bill's made a motion for deferral of staff comments. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Glenn has seconded. I'll call the roll. Bill?
Yay in favor.
Glenn?
Yay in favor.
Fillmore?
Yay in favor.
Julia?
Yay in favor.
Chair votes yay in favor. Motion carries unanimously. All right, next agenda item is 36 South Street.
It looks like we might have the previous applicant if we want to go.
Oh yeah, I want to
applicant
jump. Let's jump back to agenda item number 2, 90 East Bay.
Let's confirm that that they're here though. Let's see.
Florian, are you here to speak?
Hey guys, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh yeah, but I'm the owner of 31 Amherst, so I don't know if I can speak. I could only speak to that one.
Thank
no,
you.
we've
Sorry about that.
concluded that one. Is there no one here for 90 East Bay? We think.
Tim, I think William is in the attendees.
Thanks. Ah, I see it. Okay. William, would you like to speak for 90 East Bay?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let me go back and introduce the project, and then you can take over.
Okay, very good.
I'll just zoom through these again. 90 East Bay is requesting final approval for the installation of a new Sapile door based on historic documentation. Category 2, Charlestown neighborhood, circa 1773 to 1793 in the old and historic district. Again, here's the aerial and the existing building. Okay, William, take it from here.
Okay, so basically the door that was existing was beyond repair. It had been cut down numerous times over the years, and we didn't think it was original. And when we went to remove it to replace the door, or not replace the door, but to repair it, we discovered that the jamb was actually built in from the original jamb. And so when we removed the jamb from the outside, the original jamb was intact and was mortised on both sides, which told us that it must have been a French door originally. And also, you know, just the scale of the opening told us that there likely was a transom as well. So we are proposing to go back with basically a reproduction of what we think was originally there, which was a French door with a transom, while retaining the, you know, the door surround and everything from the exterior, but just replacing the actual door slab with a, you know, Sapele historic reproduction.
Okay, thanks, William. Kim, do we have any photos or anything, or at very least maybe the photo of the old historic photo? There you go. All right. Okay, does anybody have any questions?
This is Bill. Is this all to be painted?
Yes, sir.
I would like to ask how you came up with this design.
Well, the door slabs themselves, we just used a traditional, you know, 2-panel design that was kind of appropriate. It matched some of the interior doors were 4-panel, so it seemed appropriate. And then the transom design was kind of picking up on the circular surround that was existing, just using some of those elements to kind of tie that in. You know, the opening, the size, and everything like that was determined by the original jamb. But the actual door slabs themselves were basically what we can kind of, from what we've gathered, what we assume was originally there.
Okay, so forgive me, but the surround exists with the
Correct.
circular. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. If no other questions, is there a public comment?
We do. We have April Wood is here to speak.
April Wood, Historic Charleston Foundation. HCF has an exterior easement at 90 East Bay Street, and we have worked with the applicant to review the proposal to replace the front door at 90 East Bay. Originally, the plan was to repair the existing door. However, during this process, it was discovered that the existing door was not original to this location. Hinge marks were identified on both sides of the opening from former French doors. Furthermore, upon further investigation of the existing door, the unique ironwork surrounding the door window does not fit the glass opening properly, contributing to our conclusion that this element was patched together from parts salvaged from elsewhere. We believe that the proposed design for the replacement door and transom is appropriate for the building, and we respectfully request approval of this application. Thanks.
Kim, no other public comment?
That is it for public comment.
All right, so how about staff comments?
We just have a couple. The proposal is thoughtful and the changes proposed are appropriate. The transom could be considered conjectured, but as there's no documentation to support the design, but it's beautiful the way it is. So the staff's recommending final approval.
Okay. William, I don't know if there's anything to clarify or respond to, but you can if you like.
I have nothing further.
Okay. How about discussion, board discussion?
I like it.
I'll be in touch tomorrow.
Or a motion floating around? Come on, Glenn, you're getting ready to make a motion, aren't you?
No, I'm happy to. Yeah, Glenn Gardner, I'll make a motion for approval. I'm trying to tell whether staff comments aren't really necessary. So I'll make a motion for final approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Glenn's made a motion for final approval. Julia seconded it. I'll call the roll. Glenn,
Yay in favor.
Julia,
Yay in favor.
Fillmore,
Yay in favor.
Bill,
Yay in favor.
chair votes yay in favor. Motion carries unanimously. All right, so now we're back to agenda item number 4, which is 36 South Street.
36 South Street's requesting final approval for renovations to building, including elevation, reestablishing front piazzas, and new addition at rear. The building's a category 4 in the East Side neighborhood, circa 1858 to 60 in the Old City District. Here's an aerial image for your context at the near the corner of South and America Street, 1 block south of Reed. And this is the building as it exists today. And this is looking west on South Street. And this looks toward the east on South Street. The Sanborn maps from 1888. On the left, you can see it has not changed since then. The 1902 to 1942 on the right. It's not the right one. My apologies. And Barbara, if you're here, oh dear. Sorry, little technical difficulty. Barbara, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, hey Barbara.
Hi, everyone. Okay, Kim, if you don't mind forwarding to the existing elevations, it should be the 5th or 6th slide. It's been about a year since we've been in, so I just want to refresh everyone. You saw the original pictures. We're reestablishing this front piazza that's been enclosed, and then at the rear, we're adding an addition where there was an addition on the Sanborn that's missing. There was an addition, and you might recall that we had centered that addition at the rear of the house to abide by setbacks of the modern zoning code, but y'all had requested we seek a variance, and we were approved for that in June. So the elevation has been, or that addition has been shifted. So if we can proceed, I think the next slide has more photos, Kim. Oh, a couple more. There we go. Just as you get to the house right now is completely covered in plywood and aluminum siding at that one gable. So there's not a lot of historic fabric existing on the building. Okay, if we can proceed to the proposed elevations. So at the top, we have the previously proposed, and at the bottom, we have the currently proposed. So you can see at the front elevation, there was a request to change the stair. As we elevated, we needed to put in this stair, and that was requested to go from a masonry base to a lighter, it's a wood base. It has an enclosure only under the landing. Hopefully we can get a little planting area under the lower run of stairs. There is not a landing at the bottom, and that is a particular request of the clients because there is only 3 feet to this right side of the building, and that's their only means of accessing the backyard without a height restriction, without going under the house. So particularly for landscaping and things like that, they'd like to maintain a clear access to their backyard. As we move to the rear addition, there were some comments. The first was that the addition be shifted, which we could see back in plan. But then also that the width of this porch at the back be narrowed up and the roof was lowered. And then so that it's less than the main roof. And then also the fenestration's been differentiated. So as we move around the house at the rear addition, the next slide, you can see that the addition has shifted to the west there. And then if you want to, if you need to see it, you can go back to the site plan and plans to see that shift. But otherwise we have no comment. No further comment.
Does anybody have any questions right now for Barbara?
I have one, I think, and Kim, could you go back to the revised front elevation? I can barely see it on my screen. I apologize, but I think those front windows are called, yeah, right there, are called out as SDLs on the front. I think they're called out as TDLs in the schedule though, but I'm not sure. I can't remember from going through it. Could you clarify that for me?
They are called out as correctly in the schedule. They're going to be a custom order from Marvin. You can get the single glazed from wood window from Marvin. It's a custom order.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by the SDLs on the front. So when I went to schedule, I think I recall they were called out as true divided light on the schedule.
Yeah, apologies for that.
Right. Okay, thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions, is there public comment?
There is no public comment.
What are staff's comments?
Good question. We have a couple comments. The applicant followed the board directive with the exception of the roof comment, which states simplify and lower roof of addition, and the board should deliberate on the implications of this. Our second comment is substitute the lattice under the stair to the louvered system under the rest of the house foundation. Staff's recommending final approval with staff comments noted.
Okay, Barbara, anything to clarify?
I'm certainly happy to switch to the louvers under the stair. That's easy to do. The roof was simplified in its detailing and the it's differentiated now, and that's best seen actually on that window schedule. I believe it's the window schedule. Hold on one second. But there's a different eave condition for the house at the main original house and at the rear. That is. Also, there is.
Right there, Kim.
If the request is to have a flat roof at the rear addition, we would respectfully like to have maybe a lower pitched roof, if that's an option. We're trying to match, we are matching the existing floor and ceiling heights in the main house, and the structure that's in there, and that doesn't leave us a lot of room for ductwork and things like that. And I know that's kind of the technicalities of the building, but we would like to have a little bit of space in the attic to do that. The second floor is only at 8-foot ceiling height. So for the logistics of it, we'd like to do that, but we could certainly look at lowering it further if that's amenable.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. So we are in board discussion. So how about it? Who would like to kick us off?
Okay, I'll do it. I think it looks good. I appreciate the applicant making the changes that we requested. Personally, I'm not concerned about the gable at the addition. I don't think it will be visible to the public, especially now that the addition is centered. That gable is centered, basically, right? So I think it looks good.
I'm pretty much with Julie on this. I understand the necessity for having a little space in that under that roof for machinery, and the lower you get it, the more difficult it's going to be to make that all work out. So I think I'm all right with it the way it is.
Any other comments to add or throw on the table? If not, does somebody feel good making a motion?
I'll just make a motion for final approval with staff comments noted.
Julie's made a motion. Is there a second?
Glenn Gardner, I'll second Julia's motion.
All right. Julie's made a motion for final approval, staff comments noted, seconded by Glenn. I'll put it to a vote. Julia?
Yay in favor.
Glenn?
Yay in favor.
Fillmore?
Yay in favor.
Bill?
Yay in favor.
Chair votes yay in favor. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is 65 Pitt.
'65 Pitt Street is requesting conceptual approval of a new 1.5-story accessory building at the rear. The building's a category 4 in Radcliffe Borough neighborhood circa 1900 and in the old and historic district. Here's the aerial image to give you a little bit of context, just north of Calhoun Street. And some existing site photos. And this is down the driveway in question toward the rear of the property. And this image is looking north on Pitt Street. And some Sanborn maps from 1902 and 1944. The previous motion from October 29th, 2020 was denial as submitted based on scale, mass, and general architectural direction. And if you want to take it from here, Becky, I will promote you to panelist.
I can turn. All right, can you hear me okay? Thank you, Kim. I'm presenting the accessory building at 65 Pitt Street, which we reviewed with you at the end of October. Next slide, please. Basically, the comments centered around the large garage door that it was felt was inappropriate, and that we needed to work a little bit more on the materiality and the scale of the structure. Next slide, please. This is on the left is the survey just showing the existing accessory building that will be demolished, and on the right is the Sanborn map. Next slide, please. These are the photos that were just shown of the Pitt Street elevation and the driveway on the left-hand side of the property. Next slide. There's also a driveway on the right-hand side between 65 and 67. And on the left is a view looking up that. And in the center is really the rear elevation of the structure, of the main structure that you didn't see from the street, but it just gives you a sense of the scale and the detailing of the existing building. And on the right is the rear of that driveway where you can start to see the accessory building. Next slide. These photos are taken at the rear and on the property and are looking at the existing structure that's there that's going to be removed. Next slide. These are some details that are on the main house that we have taken some cues from and incorporated into the design that we're presenting this evening. The eave detail of the existing, the combination of the shiplap siding and the shingle siding. And at the bottom center is the dormer at the very front of the building, which has the 6/6 windows and the shingle siding on it. Next slide. These are some precedents that are actually farther away, south of Broad, close to the Battery, but just showing this building type. Next slide, please. These are the perspectives showing our proposal. On the top is the view looking down the driveway on the left, and you can see a little bit of our structure at the rear, and that will be a single carriage style garage door that's seen, and that'll be shiplap siding and metal standing seam roof that will be similar to what's on the main building. And then on the bottom is the view of the driveway at the right, and you'll see a little bit of that end elevation with our pedestrian door and overhang. Next slide. This is the site plan. This is the existing structure on site. Next slide. This is our, on the left was our previous proposed site plan, and on the right is our proposal, which has not changed. The position and the size of the building is the same. Next slide. Our proposed floor plan is on the right. On the top is the second floor, and the space is reduced a little bit because we've lowered the ridge and reduced the eave overhang. But the plans essentially stayed fairly simple and fairly similar to our previous proposal on the left. Next slide. This is the roof plan showing the standing seam roof and the two shed dormers facing our main building and the structure to the rear of us. Next slide. These are the key elevations that are visible from the public way. On the left is our previous proposal, and on the right is our current proposal. So if we look at the one on the top right, this would be facing the north, or that driveway on the right-hand side. And we have lowered the ridge height a little bit. We have used an eave overhang and eave detail to match the existing house. And we're really using the wall materials from the main house, using the shingle on the upper part of the gable and on the dormers, and then using the horizontal shiplap at the bottom half of that elevation. And then in the gable, we have a pair of 6/6 windows, feeling that change really enhanced sort of moved us in a better direction on the scale of the building. And then there's a pedestrian door on that elevation that has a solid panel, and then a glass panel above with 4 lights and a metal standing seam overhang with brackets. And then there's a small window in the stairwell, a small square window. And then on the bottom right is the elevation facing Pitt Street. And in response to the board comments last time, we have divided the garage doors into 2 separate doors that would be a kind of a carriage style with probably a gooseneck fixture or something more appropriate above it. And the dormer, we have lowered the dormers a little bit and increased the pitch on the roof so that eave of the dormer is a little bit lower. And it just feels, I think, a little bit more in keeping with the property. And then we've changed the windows there to 3 6/6 windows. Next slide, please. These two elevations on the right are our proposal, and these will not be seen from the public way, but they just show the continuation of that same vocabulary onto those two elevations that won't be seen. And we propose to mount the HVAC condensers on one of these non-visible elevations. Next slide, please. This is the street elevation. On the top is our current proposal. And we did want to call out that we went back and checked the roof pitch of the main house, and that's shown a little bit steeper here. But again, you can see our accessory building, the amount of it you would be seeing to the left of the structure in the distance down the driveway. Next slide. This is the long section, site section with Pitt Street at the far left, and then the rear of the property at the far right, with our proposal on the top and our previous proposal on the bottom. So we're just showing again that coordination of vocabulary. There are many window types on this building, but we felt the 6/6 was probably the most appropriate and referenced the dormers on the main house. Next slide. These are the sections through the building, just showing the sort of the floor to floor heights and the space available. Next slide. This is the wall section showing, just calling out the materials that we'll be using, which will be imitating the ones that are on the main house. Thank you. Any questions?
Becky, any questions for Becky?
Pretty awesome.
No questions. Okay, is there a public comment?
Yes, Anna Catherine Carroll has registered to speak.
Anna Catherine Carroll with the Preservation Society of Charleston. The Preservation Society does not feel that sufficient changes have been made based on the proposal's previous denial for scale, mass, and architectural direction. The proportions of the building are still largely horizontal and will be very visible from Pitt Street. The combination of the proposed height and footprint create a form that is challenging to incorporate into this site. And we continue to feel that a more comprehensive restudy is needed to address persistent issues of scale and mass, namely the size of the dormers and the roof height. And lastly, we would like to again encourage study of shifting the garage footprint to be better concealed behind the main house. Thank you.
If there's no other public comment, how about staff comments?
We just have, we have several staff comments. The proposal has several design elements that relate to the main house, such as the wood shingles and the pitch of 12 and 12. The quirky picture window at the stair adds some interest to the modifications to the garage, only modestly answer questions to the previous motion. It still feels very tall, but will be largely concealed by the main house. Technically, this is considered 2 stories and doesn't meet zoning requirements because the dormer windows are required to occupy no more than 30% of the floor below. So you'll need to reduce the dormers. And lastly, reduce mold windows on each elevation. Staff's recommending deferral per zoning requirements and staff comments. Thank you.
Okay, Becky, do you want to respond to public and/or staff comments?
Oh yeah, yes, please. The first one I'd like to respond to is the zoning, that we have approval from zoning for the structure. And actually the rule is 50%, that the dormer is 50%, the length of the building. And Penny Ashby has given us approval on the structure. If the small window is, if it's felt that that's a quirky window, we can certainly eliminate that. We feel like we did respond to the board comments regarding really it was the detailing and the scale of the windows that we heard last time. So it really is a 1.5 story building. It's really, we've done a number of these structures, and the restrictions are definitely ones that need to be learned and followed with the footprint size and things like that. We think the massing, actually the footprint is small, significantly smaller than the building that's on the site at the moment. So we think that's a positive move where less of that structure will be seen from the street than is currently. And we think that the coordination with the main house materials and colors will make it really blend with the site when it's constructed. Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. All right, so now we are in board discussion. Who would like to lead us off on this discussion?
Okay, I can do it. I think that I feel like this has come a long way, and I appreciate the applicant's efforts. And I think the changes made are enough for me, given the distance from the street, considering that there's an existing building that has a larger footprint. And again, I just think the proportions, the details have changed in a way that to me is very positive. And I do agree with the applicant about the zoning requirement for an accessory building. Kim, you can double check that, but I think it is 50% for a dormer on an accessory building. So I think she should be okay on that front. That's all I've got.
While y'all kind of think some more comments, Kim, was the recommendation of deferral, was that pretty heavily weighted because of the zoning issue? Because it seems like staff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks for the clarification, Becky, on that. Of course, I'll need to double check, but
Definitely, yeah.
You've gotten with Penny, then that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're back into discussion then.
I guess Jay, we would just in any motion we would just maybe have a note that staff has to clarify and coordinate zoning to make sure that those boxes are checked. Is that right?
I mean, I suppose we could go down the path of deferral, or just if we feel comfortable that it's been met, then just a board comment that, you know, double check the zoning on this issue of the dormers.
This is Bill. I don't think I was here for this previous or at the meeting for the last first application for this. And so I'm not, I just wanted, I guess, the other members maybe have clarified. It appeared that the previous motion was denial based on scale, mass, and general architectural direction. I can see the applicant's done a lot. Becky's done a lot with the general architectural direction. Looked like the footprint was around the same. She's lowered it a little bit. I wasn't quite sure what the, you know, mass, I guess mass issue per se. If you guys deem that has been properly addressed, I'm fine with whatever you guys determine from that standpoint.
From my point of view, the scale was primarily related to the window design before, and just the, I guess the low header on the garage doors and things like that, which are a little bit more nuanced, but I feel like those have been addressed to my.
How about the mass, Julia? That was one of the items I've noted here. So.
You know, she has lowered the height and thereby lowered the mass a little bit, and somehow just the changes with the architectural direction have affected the impression that it gives to me versus the previous. So I'm not any longer worried about the mass. Primarily, I mean, also considering that this is almost entirely hidden behind the house.
I think that one of the issues, particularly for me, with the size of the dormers, I think the architectural direction has come a long way. It certainly blends in with the house better. I have a little less issue with the footprint. I still think the dormers are too big. And I think that adds to the mass, but I went and looked carefully at that site this morning from the street, and I'm not sure how much of the dormers you can actually see from the street. I do think they're too big, but I'm not sure that you can read that effectively from the street. Because from the right-hand side, you could probably catch just the corner of the dormer. You can see, get that end of the building from the street, but I think you can just barely catch the corner of the dormer from the street. From the other side, from the left-hand side from the street, the thing is, I don't think the dormers are visible at all. So I'm willing to go with the dormers as they are, as long as the zoning issue is resolved.
Glenn, unless you have any other comments to add, it sounds like everybody's pretty well aligned here. And whoever wants to make a motion, maybe remember that board condition about the zoning confirmation.
Kim, can I ask about your comment number 5 about reducing mold windows on each elevation? You're saying you think there's too many windows?
Yes, you know, just try to stay away from mold windows. So I was thinking that if you, right, reduce the one on, what is that, the north elevation to 1 window, and then on the east elevations to 2, perhaps, instead of 3. But if you're not requesting to scale the dormer down, then I think 3 would be more appropriate than 2.
Okay. Try to fashion the motion for conceptual approval with staff comments number 1 and 3. And a board comment to verify the zoning compliance of the dormers. And a board comment to reduce the mold windows on the north elevation to 1 window unit.
All right, Julia, I want to read back your motion, make sure I got it right. You made a motion for conceptual approval with staff comments 1 and 3 and board comments to verify zoning compliance for the dormers and to reduce the mold windows on the north elevation to 1.
Correct, and I would add final review by staff.
Final review by staff. Everybody sort of hear and get that motion. Is there a second for it?
I'll second that motion.
All right, Julie's made it. Glenn has seconded it. I think we all got it. I can repeat it if anybody needs it. Put it to a vote. Julia?
Yay in favor?
Glenn?
In favor?
Bill?
Yay in favor.
I'll Fillmore, I think. Bill?
Yay in favor.
And chair votes yay in favor. So motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. Next agenda item is 257 St. Philip Street.
Just bear with me for a moment. Okay, 257 St. Philip Street's requesting conceptual approval for a new single-family residence. It's new construction in the Cannon-Elliott Borough neighborhood in the Old City District. Here's some context images for you. An aerial showing it's just south of Line Street. Here's the vacant lot. And looking south on St. Philip Street and north. And some Sanborn maps. 1888 and from 1902. And if you'd like to take it from here, Ashley. Mess with it once and it's always, all right. Ashley, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm here tonight with my client, Hunter Schimpf, who would also like to speak. 257 St. Philip Street is a small, narrow lot, and we've secured a special exception for a lot of insufficient size. The design challenge on this project, Kim, can you move forward, please? Is number one, to work on a lot that ends a block of dissimilar properties. Number two, to provide our client with a single family residence with a relationship to the small side yard, and also to create a structure that works with the rhythm of St. Philip Street, or to reinforce the rhythm that's almost missing now on this end of the street. Can you move forward? As you can see, there was an existing single house on this lot previously. Move forward again. And so our solution is, once again, a simple wood frame building that creates some small elements that relate to the yard, and to create a vernacular that echoes the neighboring properties. And you can see in this footprint, you can see the red line indicates the original structure from the Sanborn maps. You can see that it ekes into that side yard setback. So we're working with a really tight lot here. Next slide, please. So because it's skinny, it essentially works like a single house. It's a single room wide. We've eked out a small space in the front for an outdoor space. And then also as you move to the back, you can see there's also a cantilever porch on the back. And the building steps back in the back to relate to an outdoor terrace that may contain an in-ground pool at some point. Next slide. So once again, the vernacular is similar to that in the neighborhood. We're trying to look to work with a simple vernacular structure. Next slide. And you can see that the intent is to relate the building to the side yard. You've got a parking area in the front, and then the back of the building starts to relate to that terrace area. Next slide. The rear, you still have a pair of doors that step out onto a smaller terraced area in the rear. Next slide. And then we have one pair of windows on the north side, or on the north side. Next slide. And this is the streetscape. So you can see that on our side of the street, this structure becomes the third in a rhythm of single houses. And on the opposite side of the street, you're once again missing structures at the end of St. Philip Street where it comes to line. And so I'd like to invite my client Hunter to speak, if you could possibly do that.
I don't see him. Alex, do you see him?
Hunter Schimpf?
I don't know.
Okay, I think he just wanted to speak on behalf of the project to say that they were interested in having a single family residence on this lot. But I'm happy to entertain any questions you might have.
Great. Any questions for Ashley right now? Okay, is there any public comment, Kim?
Don't have any public comment.
I have a letter, so no sort of verbal comment, I guess. And I'll read a letter real quick. It's from the Cannonboro Elliott Borough Neighborhood Association, who writes that, in their opinion, this concept falls short in both massing and details. The house seems oversized for the lot, leaving minimal outdoor space. The pool and porches seem too small to function. If some of the bedrooms were moved to the third floor, the footprint could be reduced, allowing for better outdoor space and a more livable property. We desire projects that will only enhance and complement the historical fabric of the St. Philip Street block and neighborhood. This applicant falls short. The Cannon-Borough-Elliottboro Neighborhood Association voted unanimously to oppose the project. We recommend the board for approval for further study and development. Signed, Marion Hawkins, president of the association. Okay, so how about staff comments?
Just have a couple comments. The property is in the 2.5 to 3-story height district and meets the height requirements and the 2:1 height width ratio, but the primary facade still feels too tall and narrow. The proportions seem slightly off. It could be more successful if the roof that covered the main volume of the building and the piazza was covered with a shed. Dormers can occupy a total of 30% of the floor footprint below. The floor-to-floor heights should be reduced, and the oversized windows are not in keeping with surrounding context. So for these reasons, we're recommending denial for scale and mass with staff comments noted.
Okay. Ashley, do you want to clarify or respond to public or staff comments?
I think I'll respond to the neighborhood association. I've had numerous conversations with Marianne about the project. I think that their concern is that we're doing a wood-sided building, and I think they seem to be interested in a materiality that's a little different there. I also believe that the trying to shift the bedrooms and go into the attic then limits what we can do based on zoning. So I would ask the board to consider that. As far as the staff comments, I think that what I would ask the board to consider is that this is a unique lot. The lot is very narrow, and we're working within the side yard and the side yard setbacks, and also to provide on-site parking. So the building is going to be very narrow. We did look at a gable that just covered the area that's heated space and a shed with a shed roof for that porch element. But I think what happens then is the building gets even taller and skinnier. So that would be my response to the staff comments. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we are in board discussion.
This is Bill. Real quick, could you go back to maybe the front elevation, just something, and I guess I should have asked because staff's made a comment about the ceiling heights. Ashley, what are those real quick?
I believe we were just showing, it's 12 floor to floor, but I think the intent there was to provide some sort of truss to be able to put ductwork there, because we're trying to keep the building tight to the ground plane. But if the board felt like we needed to reduce the floor to floor height, we could certainly work with a nominal lumber and try to do something different with the ductwork.
Okay, so it looks apparently like maybe a 10-foot and 10-foot ceiling, 10 and 10?
Correct.
Thank you.
That's actually would be 9 foot on the second floor. It's 10 foot floor to floor. So the attic floor elevation.
Got it. Thank you. Well, since I'm talking, I'll go ahead. I think that definitely that suggestion from staff is one way to definitely reduce obviously the height and the appearance of height. I do agree with Ashley on kind of the idea of, I guess, the full across gable, because I think she's making a solid point about if we just had it over the heated part proper and then a shed, it would actually appear potentially maybe even more arrow-like or rocket-like, I guess. Although I appreciate staff's comments, I believe probably in conjunction with maybe lowering ultimately the ridge height. But I don't know. I can kind of see the point. And I believe maybe with just some of the floor to floor heights and tweaks, it is a pretty tight box that that this building is going to be sort of fit into. I believe probably that those floor to floor heights and reducing all that down is going to help quite a bit. And then maybe potentially just some of the basic massing. I don't, in my mind, it's not too far off. I just think it's more in the realm of maybe some adjustments myself.
Is there any other comments to add to Bill's differing point of view? Bill, you know, and it might be a premature question, but when you're talking about lowering the floor heights, and I don't think we ever try to hold anybody to a number, but is there a scale or a range so we can be clear?
I think easily a foot could come out of each. That I would believe a foot out of each first floor and second floor height could work.
Mm-hmm. Anybody want to express something else here?
I will say that I'm kind of feeling the same way Bill is. You know, generally, I think it's a pretty clever, pretty subtle reinterpretation of a historic paradigm that does exist in Cannon-Bro, Elliott-Bro, with the gable that encompasses the piazza. It occurred to me that maybe I like shutters and it's great for color variation, but I assume you'd have impact rated windows. Maybe if the shutters came off, it wouldn't seem quite so crowded and that heated volume at the front. Yeah, I think I agree with Bill that just some subtle alterations and refinements and revisions could probably do the trick for me.
I'm in agreement with the majority of those, the comments and discussion.
Likewise, I think lowering the floor to ceiling heights on both floors would certainly solve some of the proportion problems. I don't have any issue with the materiality. I think it's fine. I agree with staff. I think the windows are a little oversized, and so I think that refining the height and a couple of details. I think fundamentally, I don't have any issue with the general architectural direction.
All right, so if that's sort of the feeling, is it enough for, what are we going for conceptual? Is it enough for conceptual? Or is it still too, up in the air, I suppose, given the height issue and the scale?
I mean, I guess that's a good point because what we're talking about would basically affect definitely the height and at least the mass. And then the scale of the windows changing, I think would help as well. I'd be more, I guess, inclined to call it a deferral, just so we can see that everything sort of refined in total and in context. So that would be, I guess, what I would be thinking.
Exactly. How would you articulate that?
All right, hang on. I've got to go back and look at staff's comments real quick and make sure I'm saying this properly. Thank you. Okay, I'll make a motion for deferral with staff comments 1, 3, and 4.
Second that.
All right, so what we got on the floor is a motion for deferral for staff comments 1, 3, and 4. Made by Bill, seconded by Julia. Anybody got any questions on the motion? I'll put it to a vote. Bill,
Yay in favor.
Julia,
Yay in favor?
Gilmore,
Yay in favor.
Glenn.
Yay in favor.
All right, chair is going to vote yay in favor, and passes unanimously.
Thank you.
I think that's it, Kim and Alex.
The rest of the items have been deferred or withdrawn.
Dang, that's a good way to end the year right there on a short meeting.
Happy holidays to everybody. And Alex, safe move, safe trip, good bon voyage. Hope we see you again. We're gonna miss you. Jay, we know we'll see you again at some point in time at a cocktail party or somewhere, but we're gonna miss you as well. And is Lindsay on board here? I see a name.
She's been lurking for 2 hours, taking diligent notes.
Lindsay, can you go on
He's
camera?
still willing to do this job?
I told her this is exactly how every meeting is. It takes this long and it's this easy.
I'm
on camera.
I'm making her a panelist. There she is. Here we go.
All right, here I am. I have been lurking for 2 hours, Jay. That's a good way to put it.
Welcome, Lindsay.
Well, thank you. I look forward to working with all of you. I've got some big shoes to fill, but I think I'm up to it.
Thank you.
Hopefully, Lindsay, I don't know if you caught the first part, but apparently you're being voted on right now. I didn't realize that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought it was next week. I was looking at the city council. I was lurking in the city council agendas and trying to see. Well, that's good to hear.
The second time I've heard that, but maybe Mandy was getting her dates confused. She does have a lot on her plate, but not sure. I thought it was today. I'll have to go. I'm gonna head to the YouTube channel after we say goodbye.
So we think her odds are pretty good, right?
I think so.
Okay, good.
She has the mayor's recommendation, so.
Well, we're happy to have you joining us. And to everybody, I'm sorry I had to keep muting today. We have a big deadline in the morning and there's been a flurry of activity to the printer behind me. So I kept turning the video off so you couldn't see the traffic to the printer. I'm sorry about that.
Well, y'all enjoy working with Lindsay. I know I have for the last like 5 or 7 years or whatever it's been. And she sits like 2 offices down from me. So I'm sure my voice will somehow be what do you about this asshole? You know, so yeah.
Nice. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, Lindsay, thanks for signing up for this. So we will see you early January, mid-January.
Bye,
Yeah.
everybody.
I look forward to it.
It's been great. Thank you, Alex. And happy holidays to everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Happy holidays.
Bye.